Hello and welcome to GCS News, the Summer Camp Edition. I'm Mr. Mark, and yes, I'm wearing a pink tie. We start this week, as we do always, singing the good news and praising glory to God. So stand up, clear your throats, and let's start singing.
Your sun down and set me free. Everything of this world will fade. I'm pressing on till I see your face. I will live that your will be done. I won't stop till your kingdom come. 'Cause you are my freedom. We lift you higher, lift you higher. Your love never ending. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. You are my freedom. We lift you higher. You are my freedom. We lift you higher, lift you higher. Your love never ending. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free.
Greatest day in history. When death is beaten, you have rescued me. Sing it out, Jesus is alive. The empty cross, the empty grave, life eternal, you have won the day. Shout it out, Jesus is alive. He's alive. And oh, happy day, happy day. You wash my sin away. Oh, happy day, happy day. Jesus, you are mine. Oh, in this joy and perfect peace, earthly pain finally will cease. Celebrate, Jesus is alive. He's alive. Oh, happy day, happy day. You wash my sin away. Oh, happy day, happy day. I'll never be the same. Oh no, forever I am changed. And oh, what a glorious day, what a glorious way that you have saved me. And oh, what a glorious day, what a glorious name, Jesus. Oh, happy day, happy day. You wash my sin away. Oh, happy day, happy day. I'll never be the just enough strength to live for the day. So I'll never have to worry what tomorrow might bring, 'cause my faith is on solid rock. I am counting on God. I am counting on, I am counting on God. I am counting on, I am counting on God. I am counting on, I am counting on God. I am counting on, I am counting on God. Joy unspeakable, it won't go away. Just enough strength to live for the day. So I'll never have to worry what tomorrow may bring, 'cause my faith is on solid rock. I am counting on God. I am counting on, I am counting on God. I am counting on, I am counting on God. I am counting on, I am counting on God. I am counting on, I am counting on God.
Come on, let's sing. I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my tomb till I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. Come on, with one voice. Now your mercy has saved my soul. Now your freedom is all that I know. The only knew Jesus when I met you. When you called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. Come on. I needed rescue, my sin was heavy. The chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan. Now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you called my name, I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day.
That was fantastic. And now, these messages.
There's something we all need to know if you want to keep that healthy glow. Remind your friends in courteous terms. Let's spread the word and not the germs. Wash your hands, it's the right thing to do. It's easy when you only have to. Wash your hands, keep them clean, oh yeah. Hey, hey, wash your hands. But if you find you're not feeling well, like too many trips around the carousel, call the doctor, that's what you do. The doc will take good care of you, and you'll feel better too. Wash your hands and make your mother proud, and maybe you can join the popular crowd. Wash your hands like 50 times a day, oh yeah. Hey, hey, wash your hands. Wash your hands.
Welcome back. We now turn to our biblical correspondent, Mr. Scott, with this week's World Bible Report. Take it away, Mr. Scott.
Action.
Hi, boys and girls. Did you know that God has a sense of humor? That's right. Now, just because he's our father doesn't mean he tells dad jokes. He doesn't. I like dad jokes. Like, why did the old man fall into the well? Because he didn't see that well. And what do you call a fish with two knees? Toonie fish. That's another dad joke that I like. But God doesn't tell those kind of jokes. But he does have a sense of humor. Did you know that when God used Moses to have the children of Israel leave hundreds of years of slavery in Egypt, he mocked, he made fun of the Egyptian gods that the Pharaoh and his people worshipped? That's right. The very first plague that he brought upon the country, when Moses said, God says, let my people go, and Pharaoh said no, was this. He caused the Nile River to turn into blood. Now, the Egyptian people worshipped the Nile River. The Nile River was very important to them, very important to their economy, very important to their crops. And God turned their god, the Nile, into blood. The very next plague was the plague of frogs. Did you know that there was an Egyptian goddess named Heket? That's right. She was the goddess of fertility, the god that the Egyptians prayed to when they wanted to have babies. And God mocked that god by having all kinds of frogs come up out of the Nile River and completely cover the ground, cover the table. You'd open up a cabinet to get your cereal and it'd be filled with frogs. You'd slip on your shoes in the morning and they would be filled with frogs. I guess you could look at them and go, oh my God, because that's what they were to the Egyptians. And God made fun of that goddess. They also worshipped cows and bulls, and God caused the cows and the bulls to die. They worshipped the sky, and from the sky came fire and rain and storms and hail. Fire and ice both came from the sky and destroyed all of the crops. They worshipped some insects, and gnats and flies and locusts were part of the plagues that came to Egypt. They worshipped the sun. There was a god called Ra, the sun god. And God made the sun go away for 3 days, and Egypt was kept in complete darkness for all of that time. So God was using his sense of humor. He was mocking the Egyptian gods while showing that he alone was the one true God. And finally, the last plague of Egypt, you might remember, was the killing of the firstborn sons. Pharaoh was worshipped as a god. The king of Egypt, to the rest of Egypt, was a god. He was a firstborn son of the king that was before him. He was going to die. His firstborn son, the prince, was going to take his place, and God took away the firstborn sons, all of the firstborn sons of Egypt. And you probably remember the story about how God's people were asked to paint blood around the posts of their doors. So when the angel of death came through Egypt, they would pass over that house. Hebrews today, Jews today, still honor the Passover because of that thing that happened. So God had a sense of humor. He wanted to show the Egyptians, and he wants to show us, when we read that story, that he is the God of all gods. No other gods before him, no other gods except him. He's the one and only. And he does have a sense of humor. Now, one more dad joke maybe to send us off here. I got it. What time did the man go to the dentist? He went at 2:30. 2:30, do you get it? Well, that's all for this week, kids. See you next week, maybe at 2:30.
Excellent. That was, as always, entertaining and informative. And now, this message.
It's fun to wash your hands, and I know you understand. So we washy, clean, scrub, scrub. We start with washing palm to palm. Between each finger, let us rub. Now the back of the hands, it's such a simple plan. We washy, clean, scrub, scrub. Clean the base of the thumbs one by one. Then the back of the fingers, this is fun. Don't forget your fingernails, it's about details. We washy, clean, scrub, scrub. Now move on to the wrist, let us rub. I think we're nearly done, so now what? Just rinse the soap away, dry our hands and we're okay. We washy, clean, scrub, scrub. So we washy, clean, scrub, scrub. We washy, clean, scrub, scrub. It's fun to wash your hands, and I know you understand. We washy, clean, scrub, 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 scrub.
Welcome back, and it's now time for our weekly look at world news of the weird, as we look at some strange and interesting facts about this week's country, Africa. We start with breaking news. Africa is not a country. Africa is actually a continent that has 54 countries. Africa is the second largest continent in the world and boasts more countries than Asia, the largest continent in the world. There are over 2,000 different recognized languages spoken in Africa. Around 200 of these are spoken in northern Africa, including Central Sahara, and are known also as the Afro-Asiatic languages. 140 are spoken in Central and Eastern Africa, known as the Nilo-Sahara languages, and more than 1,000 are Niagara-Saharan languages. Africa was once made up of over 10,000 states. Before colonial rule, Africa was made up of 10,000 different states and autonomous groups, each with their own very distinct language and unique customs. The pre-colonial disjointed Africa could explain why there are so many languages spoken, and why many of these languages spoken in regions of Africa are not spoken anywhere else. Nigeria has the highest number of twins born in the world. One of Africa's largest countries, Nigeria has been nicknamed the Land of Twins by the BBC because its highest rate of twins births in the world. Numbers show that the twin birth rate in West Africa are actually 4 times higher here than anywhere else in the world. And the center of it all takes place in a sleepy little town in Nigeria called Igbo Ora, where the last recorded figures revealed an average of 50 sets of twins in every 1,000 births. Africa is home to many of the world's animal-related records. Africa is home to the world's biggest frog. It may not be surprising that the world's largest species of frogs resides in Africa. It's named the Goliath frog and can grow to be up to a foot long in size and weigh up to 8 pounds. That's heavier than the average human newborn baby. This cute little, or not so cute little creature may be big, but it's harmless and is found in the Equatorial Guinea and Cameroon. African elephants are the largest living land animals. They are so big, in fact, that they can weigh over 6 tons and be up to 7 meters long in size. They are often compared to their Asian relatives, but they have many distinct differences, including the fact that they are bigger in size. They also have much larger ears and have more wrinkles and more rings in their trunk than Asian relatives. These are fantastic species and one to look out for when you're on your next safari. Africa is also home to the world's tallest animal, the giraffe. Male giraffes can reach up to 6 meters in height, while females can reach up to 4 to 6 meters. 4 of the 5 fastest land animals in the world are found in Africa. Wildebeests, lions, the Thompson's gazelle can reach up to 50 miles per hour. For short sprints, cheetahs can hit an unbelievable 60 miles per hour. This record was set by an 11-year-old cheetah in 2002 named Sarah. Unique wildlife. Giraffe, zebra, gorillas, hippopotamuses, chimpanzees, and wildebeest are unique to Africa. They're found in the wild on no other continent on Earth. Hungry hippos? The hippopotamus is Africa's deadliest animal. It kills more people in Africa than the crocodile and lions combined. Africa is home to the world's largest wildlife immigration on Earth. The Serengeti in Tanzania hosts the world's largest wildlife immigration on Earth, with over 750,000 zebras marching ahead of 1.2 million wildebeest as they cross the amazing landscape. And you thought Los Angeles traffic was bad. More people in New York City have internet access than the whole continent of Africa. As you may expect, Africa is very behind the digital divide, and there are more people in one single city of New York with internet access than the entire continent and the 54 countries of Africa. Kids, can you imagine that? How do African kids play Fortnite? In South Africa, you are legally allowed to attach flamethrowers to your car in order to deter carjacking. Sign me up for that. Let's look at religion. Islam is the dominant religion in Africa. Arabic is also the most widely spoken language in Africa. Christianity is the second most common religion. A really big river. Africa's Nile River is the world's largest river. It has a total length of 6,650 kilometers, which is about 4,132 miles, and cuts across 11 countries. It drains into the Mediterranean Sea from Africa's northeastern edge. Penguins! The last animal you might expect to see in Africa is a penguin, but they're there. There's a connelly living near the Cape in South Africa. They're attracted to the cold currents there. Gold is in abundance. South Africa is extremely rich in mining and minerals, and considered the world's leader with nearly 90% of all platinum metals on Earth, and around 41% of all the world's gold. Now, let's get a check of the weather.
And let's take a look at your weather details. Well, we're starting off with Lady Frey. That small town in the Eastern Cape. Now we are locating it. It is in the Eastern Cape. This is where the Eastern Cape province sits, moving to the coastal areas. But it is in the far interior of Eastern Cape, not so far from Lesotho. But when you zoom in, you start to see that, well, it is quite far from Lesotho. Now there's Queenstown, and that's Lady Frey there. So it is not far from Queenstown. So if you are in Queenstown, you can easily locate yourself and find the area. There goes Lady Frey there, Kumakala, and you can see there's some Ntsokota school there and Tsembei. Beautiful place. What I liked about this map is that as I zoomed in, I saw some waters in there. That signifies that it is an awesome place to be in. And for farming activity, when you see lots and lots of waters, because it shows that this catchment is quite huge if you can start to see it on this resolution. Now, as I zoomed in further, I started seeing lots and lots of things. Look at this beautiful mountains. There's lots and lots of mountains. All that just shows the mountain. You can see the shadow there. That's the mountain. And there is a long river, Ekakaru, that just goes through Lady Frey, beautiful place, and you can see some farming activity. As we did see that with all that water catchment, there should be some farming activity, and it does happen. A beautiful area with a beautiful mountain as well, and we are going to zoom inside and look at a whole lot of details from Lady Frey. For now, your weather details, we're not seeing a lot, but we are seeing cold temperatures. Now, these are not clouds. This just signifies that the temperatures were very low in these areas, going to Lesotho as well. And it is what we are supposed to see during the winter season, or going closer to winter. We are expecting fog patches in the early hours over the interior of Northern Cape, going to some parts of Northwest, going around Lesotho as well, going to the interior of Mpumalanga and along the coastal areas. We are expecting morning fog patches, and over the interior of Western Cape, stretching to some parts of Eastern Cape with conditions that are extremely conducive to fall fires, and along the coastal areas, isolated showers later on in the day as that cold front starts to move in. But we're not going to see the worst of it today. We'll see it tomorrow. Over the interior, it is going to be clear again. Now, let's take a look at your temperatures. We are starting from 4 in Johannesburg, 0 Bethlehem, 2 Bloemfontein and Sutherland, 7 for Uppington, 13 for Musina, 10 for Pietermaritzburg and 16 for Port St. John's. A maximum of 21 is forecast for Johannesburg and 23 in Pretoria, 26 for Musina, 27 in Palaburu and Mbombela. You are at 23 degrees, 27 for Pietermaritzburg, Graaff-Reinet at 26, Sutherland at 22, with the city of Cape Town sitting at 21 degrees, 27 in Uppington. Now, to move further, this is what we're going to see tomorrow. That cold front as it makes landfall tonight, but tomorrow it's bringing lots and lots of effects. Snowfall is expected over the high-lying areas of Western Cape and up to 80% chance of showers just along the coastal areas of Western Cape. To the interior, partly cloudy skies. Well, that is all from the weather desk, and let's go for a break.
And now we turn to the sports decks with the sports report.
Now, despite being introduced into the country just a little over 2 years ago, Kabaddi as a sport is already bearing fruit, with one Kenyan currently playing in the Indian Pro Kabaddi League. 25-year-old Simon Maina Kibura is among the reliable players for Puneri Paltan, that is part of 8 teams taking part in the Indian Pro Kabaddi League that premiered in July this year.
Simon Maina was among the first Kenyans to develop an interest in Kabaddi, a sport that has its origin in India when it was first introduced in Kenya slightly over 2 years ago. Without wasting time, he checked out Kabaddi videos on YouTube and read up all the rules that he needed to get the game started. His superb understanding of the sport saw him earn a selection to the national team that took part in the Kabaddi World Cup last year. Maina is currently the only Kenyan playing in the Pro Kabaddi League in India after he landed a 2-year contract with Indian outfit Puneri Paltan. His height and fast pace were some of his strongest selling points.
For the tournament in India last year. Yeah, circular Kabaddi. So they came back in Kenya and they saw there was a potential. So they called the Kenya Kabaddi Association, and that's where I was picked from, because they believed that I will go and I can just make them proud.
The circular Kabaddi is what most of the players in Kenya have mastered, and Maina admits he struggled to adjust to the rectangular Kabaddi, which is currently trying to popularize in Kenya during his break. It's through numerous local Kabaddi tournaments that the Kenya Kabaddi Association has been able to spread the sport across counties. In a tournament organized last weekend, teams from Thika, Kiambu and Nairobi battled it out as they also got to learn new techniques from the likes of Simon, as well as 2 visiting Pro Kabaddi players from India.
Simon at India when he came to the World Kabaddi Cup. So when he met at here, I feel very lucky. So it's feeling good about playing Kabaddi. The guys at here are well performed.
With the kind of buzz the sport is creating, there could be more Kenyan Kabaddi players boarding flights to India in the near future. But is Kabaddi capable of paying the bills?
For now, the Kabaddi I play, it's paying my bills.
Kenya will host the inaugural Africa Kabaddi Championships, in which countries like India and Iran are expected to participate in the tournament as guest teams. Despite originating from India and only making its way into the country just a few years ago, Kabaddi as a sport is gaining popularity amongst the Kenyans, while the federation is hoping to aid in spreading the sport amongst the rest of the African countries. Lynn Washira, KTN.
That's all we have time for this week. For all of us at GCS News, keep your hands clean, your parents happy, and stay healthy.